Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guys Mo Noir in the Midwest, and we got Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a Wednesday slate here, gentlemen. A lot of day games here, but we are going to move on to those evening time games. Make sure we can get you guys these videos in time. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us every weekday of this regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Have plenty of great content coming up for you guys all summer long and into this fall. Also have our great odds finder tool there. Make sure you are shopping those lines to the best of your ability with that odds finder tool there on thelines.com. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we have for tonight, guys. Kicking things off with that first evening time game. It is the Baltimore Orioles in Cleveland. Jordan Lyles on the mound for the O's, taking on Tristan McKenzie, and the Guardians are minus 170 at home. The Cards and Jose Quintana are in Cincinnati, taking on Mike Minor and the Reds, minus 230 for the visiting Cards. Drew Rasmussen and the Rays are in Miami, taking on the Marlins, minus 170 for Tampa on the road. James Kepler-Leon and the A's are in Washington, taking on Anibal Sanchez, minus 110 for both clubs there in Washington. The Dodgers and Tyler Anderson are in New York, taking on the Mets. Jacob deGrom, minus 165 for the hero deGrom there. Again, we are going to talk about as well. Seattle and Marco Gonzalez are in Detroit, taking on Tyler Alexander, minus 135 for minus 155 for the M's on the road there. The Rockies and Ryan Feltner are taking on Atlanta in Atlanta. Kyle Wright on the mound for the Bravos, minus 300 for Wright and the Braves. Michael Wacha and the Sox, a team we continue to fade, probably to success, are in Minnesota, taking on Joe Ryan in those Twinkies, minus 120 for Joe Ryan. And team, we are going to take a look at that game as well. The Royals and Chris Bubich are in Chicago, taking on Lance Lynn and the White Sox, minus 200 for the Chi Sox there. Garrett Cole and the Yanks are in LA, taking on Patrick Sandoval and the Angels, minus 190 for Cole and the Yanks there on the road. Bailey Falter and the Phillies cap things off on the night slate here for us in Arizona, taking on Tommy Henry and those Diamondbacks, minus 135, a game we are also going to talk about here. But I am going to kick things off with my Metropolitans and make Mo talk about them as they continue to lead the NL East, minus 160 for deGrom against Tyler Anderson. Talk to me about which angles you're looking at in this one, Mo.
Yeah, pretty tough day yesterday for the Braves. Lost as minus 350 favorites when they had a chance to gain a game on the Mets. That's never good. Right here, we have obviously deGrom, the highlight of every slate he's on, and facing off with Tyler Anderson, who has had a surprisingly great season for the Dodgers. He's been very changeup heavy, 32% changeups. The Dodgers kind of reworked the way he throws the changeup. It's been really great weapon for him so far. The Mets, though, very, very strong against the changeup all year. They were first for a lot of the season. They're third now. And then they're top 10 in both WOBA and ex-WOBA against left-handed changeups specifically. So pretty good matchup for them, even though they're not quite as strong facing lefties for the season. And then, yeah, deGrom, relatively mortal outing or two recently, but it's just still disgusting when you look at his numbers. I mean, it's just numbers you never see. 1.25 xERA, 1.32 SIERA. I mean, he's even throwing his fastball somehow harder than he was last year. He's up to 99.3. I did fire on the Mets. I got like kind of an off-market number last night, minus 138. I think the value's pretty much gone, but anybody who still wants to bet deGrom, I really wouldn't fault them for it, because reasonable chance he's still underprojected here, just because he's so far off the grid as far as like how good he is, that computer projection systems, which always have trouble with outliers, are probably going to struggle to properly rate his true talent level, I guess. So these are what the lines are usually based on. So, I mean, deGrom is just, like I said, he's off the charts. So any projection machine is going to struggle with him.
Yeah, I see the number continuing to rise here, because even when you're facing the Dodgers, you have to get deGrom. It makes sense. The way to juke it, which I often talk about, is a correlation play here. Mets plus the under, plus 200. With Edwin Diaz well rested, he hasn't pitched in 4 days, I believe. So the Mets have quite a bridge here. If they can get a strong outing from deGrom, to keep the Dodgers off the board and only give up 1 or 2 runs in this game, and that's their path to winning, basically, then I think that makes sense. I mean, you look at DeGrom, Mo said, throwing so freaking fast that he has a career low 27% pull rate, and the Dodgers are leading the majors in that the last 2 months, during their hot stretch in terms of being able to pull the ball, get on top of fastballs. So that is a key to success here when you look at DeGrom being able to handle this lineup. He's actually never beaten the Dodgers in 10 starts, 2.87 ERA though in those outings. So obviously he's done his job, and he's much better than he was when he started that stretch in 2014. Mets hot at home, won 15 of their last 19 at Citi Field. And Tyler Anderson, I am pretty impressed by his numbers, especially in the second half. Slightly worse at home, though, especially in terms of walks. Only a 2.8 K to walk ratio. So give the Mets the edge there for sure. I mean, in the pitching matchup, and if you can get the price below -160, I don't have any problem backing DeGrom here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll probably sprinkle some of that on there with my hopes that they are going to continue to stay atop the AL East as well. Moving on here to a game, the NL East, Boston Red Sox, the basement dwellers right now, are in Minnesota taking on Joe Ryan. Michael Wacha on the mound for the Sox has been very good, obviously, this season, or at least his numbers continue to stay afloat. I did have a sort of tough outing last game, but, as we were talking about Joe Ryan here, he has looked really, really good this season, especially against the AL, which is where, obviously, the Red Sox play. So, Mo, kick us off with this one and those Sox, I'm talking to you, Nate. Want to hear about that Boston squad there. Give me Michael Wacha some feedback here, and whether or not he should be able to compete with Joe Ryan in Minnesota here.
Yeah, Mo doesn't want to touch Wacha. He's on the no-fly zone. But we nailed it in his last start. I mean, that doesn't mean you necessarily cashed, because Boston won 9-8 because the freaking Rays, of course, threw their starter 1 inning, and then the bridge guys got rocked. Minnesota will not make that mistake with Joe Ryan, of course. I mean, he's basically the young ace of the staff. So much better at home, 2.7 ERA. Josh mentioned he has a 2.7 ERA versus the AL still. His only recent blow-ups were at San Diego, at the Dodgers, and some sort of fluky mistakes. I mean, he should trust his fastball. He's going to throw in 66% first strikes thus far. His fastball rate's +16. Boston's good against the four-seamer on the season, but in the last 30 days, when they've been a little injury depleted and their season's circling the toilet, they're -3, slightly below average in terms of their rating against the fastball. So back to Wacha, who, we've mentioned for many starts now that his ERA is about 2 runs below his projection, and you got to think that it'll circle back eventually. In 3 starts since returning to injury, too, you can tell the velocity is slowly dipping. The line drive rate is nearly 25%, nearly a 60% pull rate. And Minnesota loves those slower fastballs, as the highest pull rate in the American League. So coming off a pretty rough outing against his former team in the Rays, I think Wacha does get hit pretty hard again here. Minnesota, the lineup's starting to come around, 5 straight wins. So I think, alternate title to this show, Josh, is fade the Red Sox down the stretch, and that's what we're doing again here.
Yeah, every time I look at Michael Wacha's numbers to see if anything has changed, his ERA estimators are still 2 runs higher than his ERA, and yet he's somehow still turning a 23.9% called strike plus whiff rate into a 2.53 ERA. I don't know what dark wizardry he's doing to do that, but it doesn't seem sustainable. But I had to stop fading Michael Wacha because it's costing me too much money. So I'm just going to leave him alone. And I wish you the best.
Smart words from a very injury-prone man at this point at the hands of Michael Wacha. I think fading the Sox here is going to continue to be an easy play, as we will pick on them down in these last 30 games of the season or so. Let's finish things off here, guys, with Philadelphia in Arizona. Bailey Falter and Tommy Henry on the mound. Just don't look now, but the Diamondbacks are the hottest team in baseball. They have a 5-game winning streak going. Their offense has actually been very, very good, scoring about 45 runs during this 5-game win streak. They will look to sweep the Phillies here, which I know Mo and I would not be against in that tight NL East race. But also, looking at the way that they came back down 7-0 to those Phils on Monday night. Coming back to win 13-7. So the offense is clicking right now for this team for sure. Tommy Henry might not be a guy that you really want to put too much stock into, but tell us why you think, Nate, the Phillies at -136 are still worth it, and that they can avoid this sweep at the hands of those D-backs.
Law of averages, I guess. They won't give up 13 runs in a third straight game. But, I mean, really, it's the offensive edge that we're looking at here with the Phils. We're looking at two young lefties that are pretty equal. Tommy Henry for the Diamondbacks has clearly gotten lucky. He's got a 5.1 xERA versus his actual 3.2 ERA. So you'd say, oh, he did great against the White Sox and Cardinals lefty-killing lineups, but maybe he lucked out there. I mean, he's only got a 6% K-minus BB, 25% call plus swinging strike. So Phil should be on him, and they have the fourth best WOBA against lefties on the season. They're hitting nearly 300 against lefties since the All-Star break. Arizona hot lately, but still only 240 average against lefties since the break. One of the higher K rates, 23%. And for whatever reason, the Phils have stepped up and backed Bailey Falter here, winning 6 of his last 7 starts, even though he's been very much average in those starts. Managing contact a little bit better here in the second half, though, and the batting average against has dropped from 297 to 207 since the All-Star break. For young Mr. Falter, getting more infield fly balls, which is what he needs when he has only a 29% ground ball rate. So I think, the Phils avoid this sweep here and give him enough backing to get the win. It's interesting. The over is getting some steam now, up at 9.5 runs after the explosion we've seen in the last 2 games. Still kind of interested in that, or maybe looking at the Phillies over as a way to fade Henry here.
Yeah, I think average is a good way to put it with Falter. I have him projected a little below, but I think Henry is looking like a replacement level arm. Every metric outside of ERA is pretty poor. 5.09 xERA and an exactly matching Sierra. His chase rate is atrocious, 25.2%. And it's just really no surprise when you look at his minor league track record, it's pretty bad. He wasn't good at last season, and he wasn't good at AAA this year. Falter's actually missing some bats. He has a 30.9% called strike plus whiff rate. His weaknesses seems to be the home runs. He gives up too many home runs, but it's not like the worst when he's not walking anybody, basically. So most of them end up being solo home runs. And Arizona is not a huge power team. They're kind of in the middle of most of the home run and power metrics. And you brought up the fly ball tendencies of Falter. I think that plays well against Arizona in this park, especially. They do tend to be a team that lifts the ball, so that should be good for Falter. And also, Diamondbacks home park, ever since they put the humidor in, not that strong of an offensive park, not the home run haven it used to be. 95 home run factor last year, so 5% fewer home runs than league average. So I'm more interested in betting Falter on the road for sure, because he's really, really heavy fly ball lean, like only 29% grounders or something this year.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Either way, we are coming down to the nitty-gritty here, end of the season. As we mentioned yesterday, only about 31 games for each of these teams left in some tight division races. So we will continue to stay on that. And that is all the time that we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you're liked and subscribed. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing these videos each and every weekday of this regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.